I'm happiest in the saddle.
A fellow sportsman.
I am an FBI agent!
Great Scott!
What do you say we cut the chit-chat? A-hole!
Dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria.
Come with me if you want to live.
Hello, and welcome to Retro Ramble. I'm Charlie McGee.
I'm George McGee.
And this time, dear listeners, it's Crimbus, it's festive. We have to do something that is both Retro Ramble and slightly Christmassy. So we have decided to take a Retro Ramble on
Batman Returns.
Featuring none other than Danny DeVito, in that order, Michelle Pfeiffer, Christopher Walken. Who's the guy who plays Alfred? Who's the guy who plays Alfred?
Michael Gough.
Tim Burton makes it. Danny Elfman's on the music. There's some other guy. Who is it? It's Michael Keaton.
Michael freaking Keaton.
So, a big film for us. If you've checked out our episode, you will know we've invested a lot of time into the original 1989 Batman. So this is going to be a big film.
Yes, indeed. Obviously, yeah, we are both big Batman fans. I am a huge Batman nerd. And people may be wondering why we've put this off for so long, because I think we covered Batman, I think it might be like episode 9 or 10, I want to say. So we definitely covered it in our first year. We have a lot of love for the Tim Burton films and even some love for the Joel Schumacher films, but they're a different kettle of fish.
And a lot of love for the Adam West classics.
But yes, with this one, the reason why we've put it off for so long is because it is, whilst a Batman sequel, it is a Christmas film. And it's not, I wouldn't say it's the Die Hard argument. I would say, and whilst like Die Hard, this was released in the summer of 1992, I would say the Christmas themes are integral to this film. And that's why we've covered a lot of Christmas films already, the bigger Christmas films, and we've still got a few more to come. But yes, we felt it was the right time to do Batman Returns.
Yeah, it's a short list of great films when it comes to Christmas. And I wouldn't say we argue over it, but I'd say it's probably the toughest decision we make of the year. Like, Halloween is a tougher decision because we're like, we don't watch horror films.
Don't do horror.
We don't do horror. Which films could we tie back to Halloween? So I think we struggle more with that, whereas Christmas, it's the opposite. We're like...
And Christmas means different things to different people.
Exactly.
Yeah, you always find that people have different favourite Christmas films.
So, if you have listened to Retro Ramble, you know what to expect. But if you've never listened before, here are some warning signals from George, Commissioner George.
So, Retro Ramble, we are an independent film podcast. Charlie and I are brothers, and our mission in this podcast, we revisit the films of our youth. We look at how they were made, the production stories behind these films, what made them great at the time. Do they still stand the test of time? Have they been remade? Have they been rebooted, spun off into some sort of nostalgic Netflix series? Essentially, it's like revisiting an old friend. It's a light-hearted look back, so there may be some bad jokes, terrible impressions, and some mild swearing, but ultimately, we aim to entertain.
Bad jokes, mild swearing, taking the piss, like seeing an old friend.
And I think in this episode, it's probably safe to say, because Charlie and I are big fans.
Walken
warning, yes. There's bound to be lots of Christopher Walken impressions in this episode, so apologies in advance. Forget about it.
No, it's okay. We've got them out of our system. I promise.
And if that's turning, yeah, you may. If that annoys you, you may as well just stop listening now.
Maybe we're gonna have to do another edit where we edit out all of the Christopher Walken impressions. Walken free Walken, and it's gonna be like 20 minutes less.
And then on Patreon, extra Walken.
Just nothing but us doing Walken impressions. Okay. Have you got the trailer ready?
I do, but I haven't, bizarrely, I haven't watched it in a long time, so I think we're going to get the first comment on YouTube is the classic nostalgic movie voice guy. So I think we've got that to look forward to.
Sewers of Gotham, a new villain emerges.
You didn't invite me, so I crashed!
From the rooftops of Gotham, the perfect enemy comes to life.
Hear me roar. Yeah.
And the only one who can save this city is a creature of the night.
Hey, stud. I thought we had something together.
We do.
While she craves a romance she can sink her claws into,
You're catnip to a girl like me.
he plots a foul reign of destruction.
My dear penguins, thanks to Batman, the time has come to punish all of them!
Above Gotham looms its greatest hero.
But what's it called? They just showed the logo. I recognize the logo.
I think it's called Burton.
Burton. So...
okay, so for anybody who's not listened to Retro Ramble before, you have to know that it was a long time ago. We are in, I think, our 5th or 6th season now, and Batman remains, to this day, up there with Terminator 2 as our most listened episode. And I think, as George was jokingly saying there, quoting The Simpsons, I think it was because people recognized the logo. They saw the Batman logo, they downloaded the episode, they regretted later, they listened to it. But it remains to this day, it was one of our longest episodes. I think we did 90 minutes. That was just George monologuing on Batman before I actually interjected, but it was a long episode.
You're not far from the truth on that. And I think, but personally, it is one of my favorite episodes. And yeah, perfectly selfishly, I am a huge Batman fan, and it means a lot to me that film does, as does this film. But for me, I feel like, talking candidly, like we kind of got the Retro Ramble formula that we have now.
The Retro Rambler.
The Rambler. The retro.
I like it. Let's keep it.
It's like Formula and Ramble together, Rambler. Yeah, and in terms of, because it had such a long production background and was in development hell for over 10 years, there was a lot to talk about. And as a result, we now, I think, after that Batman episode, we went into a lot more research into why these films came to be, rather than just talking about the films and poking a bit of fun at them.
True. So how did we get this film, George? It's been a while since Batman, Tim Burton, Michael Keaton. How did we get this film? How long was it in the making? Well,
it goes back to the logo that you were talking about, because Batman, and we talked about this in the Batman episode, was a phenomenon. It was smashed all box office records, and in the words of Kevin Smith, it was the summer of Batman. It was, you couldn't escape that logo. It was on everything, and it kind of redefined what a comic book film could be, what a blockbuster could be, and every blockbuster has kind of taken, inspiration from that in terms of the partnerships and how it was promoted. And a lot of it was that bat symbol. And obviously, at the time, I think it was the 5th highest grossing film ever made. So unsurprisingly, Warner Brothers wanted a sequel.
Ka-ching.
And Tim Burton, he was kind of burnt out a bit after Batman, and he went off to make Edward Scissorhands for 20th Century Fox, which is probably one of his best films, I'd say, and very much, expressing his art style. But Warner Bros. Were keen to get him back. They wanted to try and rebottle that magic, so they were keen to lure him back, and they said to him, well, why don't we'll give you carte blanche. Why don't you make not just a Batman sequel? Why don't you make a Tim Burton film? Do whatever you want to do. Just, it's up to you, it's your movie. And this was a bit of a blow to Sam Hamm, who was the original scriptwriter for the original Batman, because he had been working on some ideas, and his script was, just to jump back a bit, Warners were keen in terms of villains. They wanted to include the Penguin, because in their mind he was like the second villain, number 2, the biggest villain after the Joker. But both Tim Burton and Sam Hamm wanted to include Catwoman. So Sam Hamm's script that he'd worked on before Tim Burton they'd offered him this carte blanche, involved, it sounds nuts, but it was more of a continuation of the original Batman film. So it picked up, there was, events from the first film, but it involved the Penguin, who was more of a traditional criminal gangster type person, and Catwoman going after treasure that had been hidden by a wealthy secret society, with the treasure being located at none other than under Wayne Manor, aka the Batcave. But there was some stuff in Sam Hamm's script that did make it through to the final cut. So when Tim Burton realized he could do whatever he wanted, he was like, no, we're going to drop the script, I'm going to get my own script writers in. But the two things that did carry over was it's setting at Christmas, and it even featured a scene featuring an evil Santa Claus wielding AK-47s, which I kind of feel like I want to see now.
I feel like that's come up before.
I suppose it's kind of in The Night the Reindeer Died, the Lee Majors movie.
Oh, no, I'm not talking about podcasts. I just feel like you and I have talked about that plot point many times. You're like, Charlie, you do realise that at one point in the production of Batman Returns, there was going to be a Santa Claus with AK-47s.
Oh, possibly. Who knows?
That's a key selling point for any movie. Get me Lee Majors.
And especially on your movie poster. And it also featured the villains framing Batman as a distraction. So Burton brings on Daniel Waters. He wrote the film Heathers, but his script that he put in, a lot of it is his script, but it was quite dark. So they brought on Wesley Strict, who did some uncredited rewrites. At one point, they did try to include Robin in it, and there were some drafts, and there was somebody cast as Robin, and there was a costume made, but we'll get into that in Coulda, Woulda, Shoulda. But ultimately, in Burton's words, he just felt, it's too many characters.
I had to stop at 4.
But yeah, Burton didn't see it as a traditional sequel. Hence, that's why he kind of saw it, in a way, it's a bit of a reboot. Because if you think about it, outside of... There's a few people returning. Obviously, you've got Michael Gough, or Go. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. As Alfred, you've got Pat Hingle as Commissioner Gordon, and obviously Michael Keaton. But outside of that, I don't think anyone else returns.
It's called Batman Returns.
Pun intended. But yeah, so there's no real reference to the first film, apart from one or two lines about Vicky Vale.
Yeah.
So in terms of the actual design of it, so we talked about the amazing sets that they built at Pinewood and they shot in England for the first one. Well, Tim Burton, again, as he had control, he was like, yeah, I don't want to go back to England. He felt that the British press were a bit overbearing, and apparently the tax breaks weren't as favourable as they were in the late 80s. But the thing is that Warner Brothers were so convinced they were going to have a franchise, they'd been paying for 24-hour security on those sets at Pinewood, so they kept the sets up because they thought, oh, well, we're going to make more sequels. So for, I think, 2 and a bit years, they were paying for security for sets that weren't even used because Tim Burton was like, no, I want to film in California. We'll just do it on the Warner Brothers sound stages at Burbank. And that's why it also feels like a very different film, because it's a different Gotham in terms of the visual design. Yes, it's a sprawling metropolis, but you've got those huge, statues and everything. There's not that much visual connections. It's similar, but it's also a bit of and obviously Batman suits being a bit different, but that's kind of a sequel thing anyway, I suppose.
Yeah, if you look at the difference between any other superhero film where the same actor has played the same role twice, there's always a slight change. I think it's for marketing. But no, what I did see being very similar was, I'm moving slightly ahead, but there's the bit where Batman, before he does the whole hand glider thing, matte paintings mixed with CGI bats, very feels like the first one, the whole matte painting effect.
Yeah, there are some matte paintings. Obviously, yeah, it's similar effects.
I think what you talked about at the beginning is probably the most important thing that we can't hammer home enough, is that we were target audience. I think I was 12, 11 or whatever it was when the first one came out. 10, maybe.
Oh, well, that's a good point. We've leapt over first memory. So I meant to ask you this because I think I was 9 when this came out. And they were quite strict on the old 12 rating back then. This was before 12A that any old monkey could go with their parents. But did you see this at the cinema?
I was 13 and I went to see it with a girlfriend.
Oh, I hate you. Not only did you you have a girlfriend, you went and saw Batman Returns at the cinema.
And I think she liked it for me.
For you?
I don't think she was into it at all. Okay, if that's...
Probably she's like, why is he taking me to this sexy, weird film?
Okay, we're going to get on to that later. So I was 13, obviously going through changes.
Changes.
And this film has gone through some changes and is highly sexually driven in some places. But yeah, so no, I just know what I want to say is that I actually remember the time. Did you remember the time?
Not now, MJ.
I remember the time in between, and it seemed like an eternity between the first one and the second. So,
yeah,
like, I can remember even talking to my friends and talking about, what do you think it's going to be called? And like, we were talking about like what the title would be. And I was like, I think it's going to be Batman Returns. And they were like, why? And I was like, because there's a really famous comic called Superman Returns. And I think they'll call it that. Like, no, you're so wrong. It's going to be this and whatever. And it was. And I was like, I was so impressed that I was able to copy one DC title to the other, just like they did. But that's what I mean, is that there was this fever, this anticipation for the sequel. And then it came out. And I know you and I are going to get to this. Like, in terms of, it's hard to pick what's wrong with this film. It's only real fans that go, there's one overriding problem with this film, and it's that we didn't get enough of something that we love. But this is a brilliant film. It's a strong sequel. And it's a great action flick. On its own, it's a great film. So, well, we're going to pick it apart, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, it's funny because I think until the Chris Nolan ones came along, this was, by a lot of people, was regarded as the best Batman film.
I got asked that this week by somebody, and I was like, yeah, but let me put you on the spot, Mr. Podcaster guy, brother guy, Batman fan guy. Which is the best Batman film, because when I thought about this week, I was like, the Nolan films are amazing action films, amazing cinema films, but which is the best Batman film? I don't know. I think it's still 89.
Yeah, no, it's
you know what I mean?
It's a bit like the Bond theory of like, what's the best film and what's your favorite film? I think, arguably, I think The Dark Knight is the best made film in terms of the everything about it, in terms of the acting, the visuals, the writing in it. I think it's all very strong. But yeah, we haven't really covered, we've probably talked about it in the past, but I find The Dark Knight is probably 20 minutes, half an hour too long, but it feels
a bit like Inception. It's a tough rewatch because in the first time you watch, you're like, this is the best film ever. I can't believe I'm being drowned in so much amazing cinema. And the second time you're like, I'm drowning a little bit.
Yeah, and like a lot of Christopher Nolan films, it does leave you quite cold. It's not much fun, like, you know, whereas at least, yes, all the other, you know, the original quadrilogy, they're easy watches.
So no, but this is why I go back to like, what is
so for me? Well, no, it's funny because
what is the best Batman film? Because like, if you want to get technical, for me, I put them on different pedestals. I think it's especially connected with what Nolan's done recently, and like, I think he will go down in history as like with Spielberg, and I think Villeneuve's obviously the new kid on the block as one of the greatest film directors of all time. With Kubrick's and the Ridley Scott's, he will go down. But I think Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, I don't include Rises, which is okay. Yeah. But the first two films are brilliant action films that feature Batman. But for me, I think 89, Returns, and The Batman are actually better Batman films than Nolan's entries, even though Nolan's entries are actually better films.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I get you there.
Glad you do.
But no, it's funny. So I watched this, on the rewatch. We watched this with my good friend James, who's a big Batman fan. He's a little bit older than me, and so he says, he remembers watching it at the cinema. I think it was the first one he watched at the cinema. He said that same question. He was like, "Well, what do you prefer, Batman or Batman Returns?" And I was like, it's a really hard choice. I mean, I think Batman for nostalgia, and obviously you've got Jack, on absolute form. But yeah, I think for me, out of that original four, I think it is this one. It's Batman Returns. I think it's very much a Tim Burton film, and we'll probably get into that later on. It's more of a Tim Burton film than the first one, and you can see that, like, thinking about it now, you can see like stuff being forced upon him by those producers, by John Peters or Peter Cooper. Yeah. In terms of can we just have a few sequences we've signed at Prince and we need to slot in some of his songs, and what about a guy with samurai ninjas are really cool, can we throw in a ninja? And yeah, you can see the sort of things being thrown into Burton and him just going, oh no. Whereas
and you can also see he's celebrating that a bit, I think, with the Cobblepot campaign when they introduce his team. I think that's Burton telling Hollywood to fuck off a little bit.
Yes, yeah.
Sorry, should we talk about the film?
Yeah, so in terms of casting, so we'll get into coulda, woulda, shoulda later, but Danny DeVito in the making of or retrospective, they said he was, in Tim Burton's mind, he was the first and only choice, despite tabloids rumouring Robert De Niro and Dustin Hoffman being considered.
Also short, famous A-liners.
Yeah. And apparently he went properly method and stayed in character on set. He had a little canopy that they built for him to travel to set unseen, so the other actors couldn't engage with him. And then he would then be unleashed on them. And Michelle Pfeiffer just says on the behind the scenes thing, she's like, it was just really creepy. It was just really. And you don't know if DeVito's having fun in the retrospective like Nicholson, he loved working on it. It's one of his favorite films. But he's like, oh yeah, I ate a lot of raw fish, and he's like, it's basically like sushi. He goes, I got a taste for it, and I'm like, is he pulling our leg or is he being genuine? Because there's that scene when he goes down to the, I was like, I think he's eating a real fish there. Yeah, apparently so much so, there's that scene where the monkey comes down with the very handy letter from Batman that comes with, when Batman has his own
letterhead.
His own stationery, just in case. You never know.
Batman letterhead. Don't leave home without it. Don't leave the Batcave without it.
So they blocked it out, kind of rehearsed it, but not properly. And the monkey was fine. But then as soon as DeVito clicks into Cobblepot mode, the monkey was terrified and wouldn't come down the stairs, and they had to do several takes to warm up the monkey for the monkey to get used to him, because the monkey was just like, what is that?
Do not trust that guy.
Catwoman, it was a major who's who of every major Hollywood actress who wanted the role, who was campaigning for it. It was actually, they had cast, again, like Vicky Vale, they had another actress cast for it who had to drop out. Again, we'll get into that later on. Again, like Vicky Vale, actually, no, it was Sean Young last time, but Sean Young wanted to be considered and turned up at the Warner Brothers studios dressed as Catwoman, demanding to see Tim Burton.
Is that a real story?
Yeah. No, if you go on...
was she drunk? No.
She videotaped it. She had a crew following her. And if you go, Arsenio Hall, he had a chat show.
Yeah.
She went on his chat show and told them all about it and showed footage of it, because I thought it was like, oh, this is obviously a really bad rumor. But she appears on the retrospective doc and she was like, oh yeah, I was convinced to, I thought that was going to win them over. It didn't happen.
People walking around filming themselves, hoping to make a career out of that, George, in the 90s.
It's never going to work. It's a terrible idea.
My agent called me up, said that they wouldn't give me a meeting, which I found pretty bizarre.
So the actress took matters into her own hands, renting a jet, pilot and co-pilot included, and flying from Arizona to Los Angeles to confront Burton at his office. En route, she made herself up to look like Catwoman. A limo met her in Los Angeles and took her to the Warner Brothers lot.
My limo driver said Catwoman is here to see Tim Burton, and they let me in.
Sean and her brother made their way to Burton's office.
Is Tim here?
Yeah, can I help you?
I heard he hid under the desk, and he wouldn't see me. I didn't know that at the time, though. I was looking everywhere for him.
We're talking about cast. Can we just talk, I think it's probably the best time before we start dissecting the film, just to talk about the quality of the cast, because it hits you. It's like, I'd say it's not a 1-2 punch. It's a 1-2-3-4, because we know we love Michael Keaton. We've obviously had Batman. We've had Beetlejuice, and he's back. We'll talk about that in a minute. But all three performances for me, watching it again this weekend, are interstellar.
Oh, everyone's bringing their A game.
Obviously, everyone's trying to be Nicholson. And that's the only criticism I have about the film. But it's a nice problem to have, because, I don't know, it's like they're all great. So I don't know how we tackle this, because I want to talk about their brilliant performances, but I want to talk about how I think that could have been handled better, given that it was a Batman film.
Well, we can get into that. There's one person I've forgotten to talk about.
Was he always numero uno?
Santa Claus. Afraid not. I'm just a poor schmo. Got lucky.
So, Max Shreck, Christopher Walken's character, interestingly, he is not based on any pre-existing Batman character. He's a non-canon character. So he
doesn't exist in real life or imagination or comic books.
Or in comic book form. It was purely a Tim Burton and Daniel Waters invention. So early scripts featured Harvey Dent, and that would have meant the return of Billy D. Williams. But sadly, that wasn't meant to be. And I think his sort of character morphed into Max Shreck. And again, I think this is Burton being, no, I don't want to pick up threads from the last film. I want to do my own thing. I've got more interesting ideas with this twisted industrialist sort of type thing. But apparently at one point in early scripts, him and the Penguin were going to be long lost brothers. When it came to casting, the casting director suggested Christopher Walken, and Tim Burton was like, "Oh no, he's far too scary." So there you have it. That's the sort of the main, the core, Batman and his villains.
But let's talk about each of them, because I feel like we should give the same screen time, mic time to the other actors. We talked about DeVito, who gives a stellar performance, and I'm glad you brought it up because I felt he was very much leaning on the thespian performance.
I forgot how feral he is in this. Like, I'm sure there's going to be a supercut of just him grunting.
But without it, it would be weird. Like everything in him cowering from the cameras. It's not so much chewing up the scenery as the sound design. But then there's Walken, who is, I don't know, it's like, I do feel, because I do think that something that we both love and many Burton fans love about his films, his style. Let's just talk about Beetlejuice, the exec. The TV exec,
the slimy
is his hatred for that slimy yuppie corporate facing thing, and here we have Max Shreck. And so I think him, where he might have been slightly terrified working with Chris Walken at the time, but the two of them carve out, and he's like, so what am I? It's like, oh, you're a real shit. and you are like an amalgamation of Nixon and all of this, because like,
well, were you not getting he's a New York
Jack Palance?
No,
but he is
no, Charlie. I was going to say he's a New York-esque industrialist. He's a big city businessman with big hair. Is that another, parody of Donald, perhaps? Is it an intended? Because I was like, hang on. Because obviously, we think about Biff in Back to the Future 2, those late 80s. That was a bit of a parody of it. But I'm just thinking, is this a sleazy rich businessman / property developer? Is this intentional, or am I just putting too much thought into it?
The fact he's described as odious, I love that word. I need to use odious more. But like, all of his like mannerisms and the way he's putting his fists in the air and peace sign.
Charlie, you think you can go 15 rounds with Mohammed Shreck?
Yeah. There's so much to do. And no, what the Max Charade party?
Mask Charade. Oh god.
Just give me an entire film dedicated to Christopher Walken playing Max Shreck. I think.
You've spoiled my suspicious spin-offs idea.
Because I was saying, the world we live in today, where we're getting freaking Gotham
villain origin stories. And
I know the Penguin is supposed to be the highest grossing HBO thing they've ever done. I haven't seen it yet, but like, just give me a Max Shreck. Give me a Max Shreck 3 seasons with Christopher Walken. Just give me it.
Well, I mean, I only noticed when I bought this on Blu-ray. There's a scene where he's getting ready. I think it's when he's going out to confront the masses. Oh, sorry, that's Chip Shreck. But there's photos on his wall.
I know, I've seen all the superimposed with Sammy Davis Jr. and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Isn't that right?
So it's Arnie, but then is it Victor Fries?
Nice to see you.
Is it me, Victor, all along? But yeah, I was just like,
did he get the job because he was in the photo with Walken from the Batman Returns, or was he in the photo because I don't know, I'm getting confused now.
So yeah, you've got a random mix. I think you've got Nixon, you've got Elvis, Arnie, and Sammy Davis Jr. But yes.
But also, can we also just say how beautiful he looks? Because this is Pulp Fiction, 90s Walken is when his acting is at his A game. He looks beautiful, and he's like, put me in every fucking movie. Do you know? I love the 90s Walken for me is peak.
But it's also like, I mean, it's more the bigger picture in this film, but the costume design, like his power suits, the big stripes, the spats, the bow ties and big collars. Obviously, it's that amped up 1930s type thing, but I love the costume design in this, and obviously it would massively influence the animated show. I love the production, like his office, that massive round table. When he comes up out of his office and there's just like the stairway that comes out of the floor, just everything in, Bruce Wayne's enormous fireplace that's the size of most people's houses. I just love how everything, there's huge statues in Gotham. I just love how everything's amplified. It's larger than life.
I've got a big point in my notes about set design.
Yeah.
Is now the right time to talk about the zoo? About the penguin's lair? Because it must have been a disused zoo or something.
Well, no. I think it's all. I think everything was built on a soundstage.
That's nuts. They made that.
Yeah,
with the pool, with the water, and everything.
Everything was built, and obviously, I think they were filming it. Obviously, they were filming it in LA, and they had to have with real penguins on set. They had to have it air conditioned. All the temperature brought down. So yeah, it must have been a fortune. As I say, considering they had been Warner Brothers shrewd accounting. Oh yeah, we'll save loads of money because we've got these sets in Pinewood. Oh, we're not using them. We're building everything from scratch.
Can I just tell you about my three favorite things in this film to set up the next thing I think we should talk about?
Okay.
Keaton. Walken. Penguins. Can we talk about the penguins? Because real suited midgets, you decide, but they're all amazing.
No, it's a mix.
There must have been some animatronics.
It's a mix of real penguins, and that's why they had to have the chilled sets, and Stan Winston animatronics. So yes.
Do you not think the penguins in this were amazing?
Oh, absolutely.
The scene where Walken has to get into the duck, and they're like, meh.
Yeah, pecking at it. I mean, as we talked about, we were key demographic. I was a huge Batman fan, had to have all the toys. And as I was telling my mate James the other night, I was like, I even had the penguin toy figures that had rockets on their backs. They were completely useless. They had a rocket, the rockets fired out, and the rockets were quite powerful, but the penguins themselves completely useless. I think you got 2 in a pack, but that's how much of a completist I was. It's like, oh yeah, I need to get the penguins as well.
I was just a big fan watching it this time by myself, and that's what really got the laugh. In the third act, there's a lot of stuff going on, but my highlight was the penguins are about to fire rockets. They're not firing rockets, but they're just funny little characters, sending in a bunch of penguins.
I think there's so much. Again, I don't know if it's nostalgia or whatever, but both James and I were quoting it. It's very quotable. It's got some I think it's the Daniel Waters script writing, because obviously Heather's is quite satirical and snappy, but just some of those lines, like when he brings Shreck down to his lair, blackmailing him.
That's not an admission. I would have seen to it they were shredded.
Good idea. A lot of tape and a little patience make all the difference.
I love that line.
I loved his reaction. It's like, if there were such evidence.
Yeah. And how's Fred, your old partner? Fred? He's on extended vacation. It's like, I still use that line that nobody gets. He's good. But yeah, it's really, there are some great lines in it. I think there's some strong action scenes.
Michelle Pfeiffer kicking ass, taking names.
So yeah, let's give some love to Michelle Pfeiffer. She is amazing in this. She's funny, she's sexy, she's crazy, and she can kick ass. I mean,
so try explaining that to your wife and coming off. I was like, no, but we gotta understand. And my wife was just like, it's because of the suit she's wearing. I said, no, we don't understand. It's like she's dealing with the dichotomy of 2 very complex characters. She's playing psychic, and she's like, it's because you think she's hot. And it's like, I mean, there's that as well. And honestly, I've forgotten how much of a good actress she is.
Yeah. She's even funny when she's the, downtrodden assistant.
Executive assistant secretary, but with a electrocuting. What were they called?
A taser.
A taser, yeah.
That was something that came up. You don't get tasers are very much an American thing. I'm assuming they're illegal because they've never made them over to the UK, have they?
Not ones like that, which just have like freely naked electrical charges firing between two sides. I think now it's just like what the cops have.
With the things that fire out.
Yeah.
But anyway, as you say, yeah, she ticks all the boxes. And I just love it how you can see she's sort of battling with herself. And especially, the fun scene where she's round at Bruce Wayne's house and, that sort of awkwardness between the two of them. But yeah, she's kick-ass in this. And there's a brilliant behind-the-scenes footage of her doing the whip stuff in Shreck Superstore. And that's not smoke and mirrors. That's her whipping off all those, doing that herself.
Speaking of Michelle Pfeiffer and sexual energy, what's going on? Why is the Penguin so damn horny? Do you think that's something
he's been down in the sewer a long time. He's very lonely, Charlie.
Do you think that's something that DeVito added, or was Burton going through something? Because that's what I had to take my 8-year-old and say, no, you can't watch this. Why? It's like, because it's too sexually charged.
No, I mean, to be fair, Oswald will go after anyone as you see him in the mayor's office. I don't know if I'm reading too much into this, but a sleazy criminal running for office. I don't know if that's prescient, but here I have a button.
Yeah, and I think you even hear Walken mouth the words "poontang." You do
unlimited poontang.
I think that's a button I want. Is just Walken saying "unlimited poontang."
Admiring your handiwork.
Touring the riot scene. Gravely assessing the devastation. Upstanding mayor stuff.
You're not the mayor.
Things change.
Let's talk about let's make a mayor. The Penguin for Mayor thing. It's a very silly plot point. It's actually based on 2 episodes from the 60s Adam West TV show, but it kind of works in this fairy tale world that Burton's created. It kind of works within the world, doesn't it? It's sort of like...
Well, it works within the world he creates because it's like...
it's an underdog story, I suppose. It's like...
But the thing that's weird for me is that when you look at all the characters, it would make more sense that Shreck is going for mayor. And
yes.
Somehow, Penguin makes it happen. That would be more believable.
Or he was running for mayor and then the Penguin starts blackmailing him and taking control.
No, I'm saying imagine that he wants to oust the mayor.
Yeah.
The current mayor. And so he uses the Penguin to frame Batman because the current mayor is a fan of Batman and Commissioner Gordon. And he uses... Anyway, we're getting too much into it. But like that, for me, would make more sense. The fact that Walken's character uses the Penguin to become mayor. And the Penguin's always a criminal. Do you know what I mean? That would make... So for me, it's a weird thing. It's a weird... It's like all the way throughout, it's like the Donald Trump... character that Max Shreck is like it makes more sense that he wants power.
True. I like the old-fashioned exposition via news reports and spinning newspapers.
Yeah, well, that never gets tired.
Me, ouch. Some of those headlines as well. It's like, oh, wow.
What happened? And then Bruce Wayne defending... What I loved about the general exposition was Bruce Wayne in real time defending headlines that other character is reading out as part of the exposition. It's like lazy, but okay. That's how it was in the 80s. We all used to just walk around sharing opinions of newspapers we would walk past.
All summed up in a headline. We've jumped over one of my favorite quirks about this film and one of the most iconic images from this film and an iconic GIF. The Wayne Manor bat signal system. It's a great shot, but what happens when Bruce Wayne's got people around? You should just probably ignore those lights.
Wow, you can see the bat sign from here. What? Wait a minute, is that
Bruce? Why is the bat signal shining in your living room? You should just ignore that.
George, it's much more convoluted than that. It's not only why is the bat signal shining in your dining room, it's why have you got spotlights set up 300 feet from the house that completely redirect a new bat signal to your dining room when the bat signal is in the sky? Are you Batman? Oh, you take photographs for
because they're shotted, but the way that they turn, and it's just so, it's so OTT, but I love it. And I love that image of, there's that image of him just looking up and the bat signal's above him, and then it's him walking towards it. I explained to my wife, I was like, I love the meme that's of whenever whenever a child opens Lego and asks for help, it's the Batman sign comes on. I'm here to help. But let's not get too much, because you're going down the lane of reverse engineered Bond gadgets. Yes.
The start of the film where he's got an instrument on the car that takes out guys on stilts legs. He's got
yes, he's got a gadget for everything, and the thing that makes the whole car spin round. I suppose that Batmobile is so long, it's quite handy, but it's just just in the event you need to turn around very quickly, the big stand that comes down.
I was just thinking that would make a very funny Grand Theft Auto type ad. Are you sick of 3-point turns?
Yeah.
Power required to lift the Batmobile and turn it around. I'm not going to think about it. Sorry.
No, don't think about it too much. Speaking of the Batmobile, how does the Penguin get his hands on those blueprints? It's just those are very detailed blueprints.
There's that. How did they manage to get all of the work done, all of the wires done? Have you ever tried to
do anything on your car?
Have you ever tried to rewire a plug? Right.
Yes.
Could you literally rewire, let's say, 3 or 4 plugs in the time that the scene passes?
I'm not a qualified electrician. I'm just a knife thrower. Hurry up.
There's wires everywhere. Okay. Oh, so no, there is another thing we need to talk about. Batman kind of kills a guy.
Batman kind of kills a few people. Well, there's 2 main deaths. There's the fight,
dynamite on the fat guy.
Dynamite on the fat guy is clearly... Yes, man he's not walking away from that.
That man is
the other guy that's
blown to bits.
Possibly very badly burnt, but the devil, the flame thrower guy, that he does
badly burnt.
But as I said, there's snow around. He might have rolled in the snow and been completely fine.
But the fat dynamite guy, blown to bits.
Blown to bits, absolutely. So yes, there is
but
some.
It's fine because it was a 12A.
I find the ending a little bit disappointing.
I do too. Do we share? Is it for the same reasons?
I think the Penguin's obviously not a physical threat to Batman, and the Batski boat is a little bit underwhelming. That does feel like it's been chucked in.
So go on.
It just feels the Batski boat's chucked in for we need a new vehicle, we need a new toy. Chuck it in.
In today's modern age, let's sell some Lego. Back then, it was just cheap. Very forgettable plastic. But yeah, couldn't you have just got a cab to the zoo?
Exactly.
I'm homing in on the signal.
Well, that's the thing. It's just
maybe just get a cab.
Well, that's it. It's just it's not. And I suppose you've trashed the Batmobile. I did like the, what do they call it, the Bat missile, where it goes through the alleyway. I think that's really cool. Though I do feel.
Alleyways like that don't exist. What?
Well, there's that, but I also feel it's better done in The Dark Knight because you just didn't see it coming. It's he's trashed the Batmobile, and then it turns
into
yeah. And yes, the Rocket Penguins, they're very silly, but again, it kind of works in the whole grand scheme of things. But we'll get into it in retro reshoots. But I just do feel like the endings, the third act's a little bit underwhelming.
Because I was just munching down on campness during those scenes. Okay, so do we have coulda, woulda, shoulda?
We do. Actually, there's one bit of trivia. The Catwoman bat signal ending was a super late edition. I think they added it a week or two before the film's premiere, because I don't know if it was a studio note, but they were worried that audiences, they realized that Catwoman was going to be a popular character, and they thought that her death was, or the thing with Shreck was a bit ambiguous, and that people might think she was dead, and they wanted to bring her back for potential sequels. So they spent something like $250,000 to get that shot in at the end, and it's not even Michelle Pfeiffer, it's a body double looking up at the bat signal. I think that was done like the week before it premiered.
250,000 for a shot which doesn't even feature the main character. That sounds like money well spent.
Yeah.
Okay. And it does look tacked on at the end. But I did leave the film thinking, well, Shrek's dead, that's good. Penguin's dead, that's okay. And it's like, go make another sequel. But I don't know about you, but did you... I just want to bring about at this point too much, not to complain too much, but the end scene with Penguin's character coming back to life, out of the water,
picking the wrong umbrella,
and then going, it was too much.
Yeah,
and
it's that you would have died.
No, not from that. No, I'm talking about screen time. That to me just underlines the problem that runs throughout this film, is that there's no real need for that. There's also a bit of Selena Kyle's character that could have been skipped. There's also a bit of Max Shreck's character that could have been skipped, but none of them would have, maybe not Walken. None of them would have signed up if they hadn't been guaranteed. I feel like, especially DeVito, I think DeVito has a lot. There's a lot of this film that's focused on his character, which I think...
Yeah, it's Tim Burton reveling in the grotesque. It's I like my freaks, and I'm really getting the chance to make them, let's really indulge in it. And so much so I have to comment on the amount of promotional tie-ins for this film. And obviously McDonald's put a lot of money in to have the Happy Meals, and there was a massive backlash. There was lots of outraged parents, crying children, "Mummy, what's with all the black stuff coming out that man's mouth?" And as a result, it paved the way for basically Warner Brothers feeling bullied and saying, right, the next one we have to make it more family friendly, commercially friendly, and ultimately Tim Burton less. So they convinced him, yeah, maybe you should just make a smaller film. And he's like, you don't want me to make a sequel, do you? And they're like, no, you just take a break.
And yeah, we will get to Batman Forever. Which I think, I would have been 15 at the time. Went to see it at the cinema. Really enjoyed it. That as a film, I have not seen. It must be 20 years since.
Really?
Yeah. Oh God, I've not watched that film.
I watch it fairly regularly. I think it was the first Batman film I was able to see at the cinema. So yes, that was
been huge. At least 20 minutes.
At least 20 minutes for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll talk a little bit about Burton's idea for a third Batman movie in Suspicious Spin-offs, but we'll quickly do some coulda, woulda, shoulda. So I talked about Robin featuring in initial scripts and them making costumes, and there was even someone cast, and it was none other than Marlon Wayans, as of the Wayans brothers, as of Scary Movie, Don't Be a Menace, etc. And so much so, he was signed up for 2 films, a 2-picture contract, and he still gets royalties from the Batman films because...
I'll totally pay money to see him as Robin.
So yeah, Tim Burton was keen to have Robin played by a black actor, and there was even, you can look this up online, there was even an action figure made, because again, they do all the sort of toy deals and stuff way ahead of time. There was an action figure made, and at the last minute, they just gave him whiteface. So he's got this proper sort of flat top haircut, and but they've just given him white skin.
Why do they give him white skin?
Well, exactly. Exactly, because
it was the 90s. It was okay to do that back then.
So yes, if you can look that up, Marlon Wayne's Batman figure, and you will see.
I'm sad to hear that. I would love to see it.
So the plan was that he would be introduced in this, and then he would have a proper role in the next film. The other main casting thing in this, so Annette Bening was originally cast as Catwoman, but then she fell pregnant. She was pregnant with Warren Beatty's child. And then finally, quite sadly, Burgess Meredith, who was the original Penguin from the 1960s show, and also Rocky's trainer, Mickey, you're a bum rock. He was set to appear as Oswald Cobblepot's father at the start. But he had to drop out due to health conditions. Bless him. I think he was quite old by that point. So instead we got Pee Wee Herman.
Yes, I remember that. I remember that being trivia in the early days of the internet. Did you know? Yes, we've known for a long time.
Yeah.
When you're going through this coulda, woulda, shoulda, all I'm thinking of, could you imagine a Batman film where Walken is Bruce Wayne and Danny DeVito is Alfred? I would go and see that. I would.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
And I'm thinking, I would go and see any film with Walken in. And I think I have seen I haven't seen all of his work yet.
No, there's a lot of some Walken stuff that's just really weird. I think we need to. There's Communion is the one where he gets abducted by aliens, and there's a scene where he's just dancing crazily with all the aliens. I want to see that. King of New York, I would like to revisit. It's been a while since I've seen that.
For me, that's one of my favorite gangster films with Larry.
Young Larry Fishburne, yeah.
It's not called Lawrence yet.
So we'll quickly go through the suspicious spin-offs. So Burton's
there was sequels.
But this isn't even. I'm not even talking about the Joel Schumacher one. So Burton's ideas for a third movie. He hated the title Batman Forever. He felt that sounded like it was a tattoo or something. His suggestion, though, I'm not sure it's much stronger. His title was going to be Batman Continues. I think it was going to bring back Harvey Dent, potentially Billy D. Williams as Harvey Dent. It was going to introduce Robin. There was a lot of the stuff that did eventually become Batman Forever. So it was Two-Face and the Riddler, but rumors were it was going to be Robin Williams as the Riddler. But then his agent was demanding too much money, so they went and they said, "Oh yeah, but no one else can do what you do." But then at the time, emerging star Jim Carrey was, I think, a lot more affordable, or was charging less than Robin Williams was. But that has bizarrely been turned into, or some of the ideas from Sam Hamm's scripts have been turned into a comic book series called Batman 89. And I've got that on my Kindle. I've been reading it. But it does bring in the Marlon Wayne's Robin, Selena Kyle's back, and it's all drawn in the style that it's Michael Keaton as Batman and Billy D. Williams as Two-Face. So it's really cool. It's a cool what if. So if you are a fan of the Tim Burton Batman films, it is definitely worth checking out. And then recently, in the past month or so, there has been a novelization sequel book being released called Batman Resurrection.
That's a better name than Forever.
Definitely. Which I am keen to read, but yeah, I'm probably just waiting for the price to come down because I think it's only available in hardback at the moment.
George is currently wading through other copies of other Batman.
Other Batman literature. Bat literature. And then finally, there's obviously Michael Keaton returned as Batman in the Flash film a couple of years ago, but I think it's debatable whether that's exactly if it's the same universe as the Tim Burton universe, but it's Michael Keaton as Batman, so
does it matter? He's got the Batwing, he's back, he's fighting, he's quite cool.
He's saying
probably the only thing in that film that's good.
He is the best thing in that film. But yeah, for my suspicious spin-off, it's to go back to your point. I just want a Matt Shreck and Chip Christmas special.
Yeah.
Dad, go. Save yourself.
Yeah, I mean...
My son Chip. It's his legacy.
There's so much going on. Like, there's a younger Shrek. I think there's, because of his age in this, there's a younger Max Shreck, and there's an older Max Shreck. So it's crying out for a trilogy. So
Shreck and Shrek.
No, but there's just like all of his delivery, like everything in it. It's just like reading out the phone book, because it's not Walken. I don't know how to put it. He's become I wouldn't say a character of himself. I think he did become a character of himself between late 90s, early noughties, and then he went back to making films again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think this was like why he became a characteristic of himself, because it was the delivery. The delivery in this and in Pulp Fiction, it's just like, oh my God. It's like, this guy will terrify you, motivate, and inspire you all in the same sense.
All at the same time.
And it's incredible the way he's like talking to him. It's like, I believe in Oswald Cobblepot because of Max Shreck. Yeah, so that's what takes me back to things like, I don't understand why he's making Cobblepot the mayor. That doesn't seem to
be when he's the more charismatic, compelling
manipulating, evil. It's weird. It's almost like that would have been the third film for me, that Shreck isn't really dead, that Catwoman's back, and it's about... Anyway, it's a great universe.
Well, yeah, I mean, how could we make this better? Retro rewrites. So yeah, I would tweak the ending. I would have Batman facing off like Bond style, a formidable foe. So get the strong man, instead of him killing him off halfway through, he has to take out the strong man before he gets the Penguin or something.
Even if
along
it's
this.
Just like in the original Batman, where it's a 2-minute fight.
Yeah. And it would be nice to have seen Billy D. Williams back as Harvey Dent. I know his kind of character was replaced with Shreck, but I think you could easily swap out the mayor for Billy D. Williams as like trying to keep the city peace and it falling apart, and then setting up for part 3. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think...
What are your thoughts for... What would you change about this film if you could?
Well, I was actually thinking about it, and it's funny because you mentioned that scene. It was all about that shot with Catwoman at the end, because I think maybe its history, so you hadn't. I'd totally forgotten about that, because we're going down through the buildings and like, yeah, but he's in the car. So,
quickly get changed.
Yeah, exactly. It's a rapid change, but it's Catwoman. And I was like, okay. And that's what made me think about, okay, let's go back to when this film was finished, when they put in the scene. What were they actually planning? Well, they were teeing up. So that would be my something that would elevate and respect and promote this film, but with it would have to have Catwoman. It would. Well,
I forgot to mention there was again. There's the scripts online and there's videos online. Tim Burton was working on a Catwoman spin-off, and it was going to be kind of like. She went to like a different city that was a bit like Vegas, and she gets amnesia or something, but it was going to be like her facing off against this crooked bunch of superheroes. It sounded very much like The Boys. They were seen as like saviors of the city, but they were actually really corrupt. And so she's taking them down, and then there was an army of Catwoman. It's bonkers. It's a bonkers script, but then we got the Halle Berry film instead.
I was going to say, probably more successful than, and the other one, any other Catwoman film that's ever been made.
Yeah, as a Batman fan, I still have yet to watch that travesty. It's supposed to be the worst comic book film ever made.
So no, in terms of reshoots, I would have started there. And then, I would have gone somewhere, I don't know. I think the thing is we're jaded by what we already know, in that you couldn't go back to Penguin. It's a shame they killed Shreck. So it would have to be, you are the best Batman villains other than the Joker and Penguin. They went to the Riddler. Two-Face, that probably would have been the way to go.
Yeah.
So bring back introduce Harvey Keitel in that film, if you've done a proper good job. Saying he's going to clean it up.
Harvey Dent, not Harvey Keitel. But put
Harvey
him
Keitel
in. Bring him in.
Playing some role. Just as a...
Sure, why not?
Lieutenant who's close to the edge, but he's like really into gambling and drinking. No, but I think if you bring back the Harvey Dent role at the end of this film...
Yeah.
And then he's brought into the next film... Yeah, That would be my reshoot. And all based on, I only started thinking about it because of the last scene in this film. You're like, well, what could you have done with that last shot?
Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming it originally ended, it was just the car drives off and then you see the bat signal go up and that's it. But it's a nice symmetry with the first one. And apparently they even planned it they shot it for Batman Forever. There's a shot of, a deleted scene of Batman and Robin looking over the city, but they got rid of it and they did them running towards the camera from the bat signal instead because it looked cooler.
Debatable.
Okay,
so what else do we need to cover?
Final thoughts.
What I said at the outset, this is a great film, and the thing I like about it, that I enjoy about it, it's also its biggest weakness. So, performance-wise, great Walken, DeVito, Pfeiffer, and Keaton, everybody, and you're just like, there's nobody else in this film. You know, as you're saying, there's no henchmen.
Well, there are, but they don't get much shrift. Yeah, you've got the Red Circus Gang, or whatever they are, the Red Triangle.
Yeah. And you and I remember two of those character actors, and one of them, the guy in the moustache who drives the Chitty Chitty Bang Bang type thing at the end with the children in it. Yeah.
The guy from Ghost. Get off my train.
You know him. So
and
it's like,
Dr. Kaufman.
Yeah, so there's not enough stronger character actors in this because
you've got so much. Yeah. And you've got so many, such strong personalities. And yeah, I think the main complaint about this film is that Batman gets short shrift. But
yeah, well, for me, it's perfectly balanced. That's because it's what you're saying. But my final thoughts is that there's so many other big actors in this who've got big roles, loads of lines that make the film bloated, that squeeze out. My issue is it's the first half of the film, the first third or the first half of the film. There's a bit of Batman, there's zero Bruce Wayne. And so it feels uneconomic. But it's also something I love about this film. It's the quality of the performances. So, yeah, it's a bittersweet thing.
Yeah, for me, it's a very Tim Burton film. And I think, it's kind of like what you're saying. It's its strength and its weakness. It's a very weird film. It's a very camp film. But I love it. I just like it as a gothic fairy tale. For me, it does feel very Christmassy, because it is integral to the plot. It's very snowy. There's lots of Christmas themed stuff in it. And yeah, I do like it. Because of that Tim Burton sort of unleashed, I do like that sort of OTT gothicness to it. I think it's kind of maybe a blessing and a curse that we didn't get another film from him. I think it would have been a very sanitized, it probably wouldn't have been successful. So it's almost like a good thing that you just was 2 and out.
Also, if you think look at where Michael Keaton is today. Look at where Tim Burton is today. I think we have all benefited from it ending with this film.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Rather,
because we're going to get another Beetlejuice. So we've had 2 Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Probably going to get another one. Beetlejuice being one of the highest grossing films of Warner Brothers' recent history.
Yeah.
Definitely going to get another one. Burton's happy. Well, I don't know if he ever is happy. Keaton's happy. Monica Bellucci's happy.
Yeah, no, as I said, I think whether it was in our Beetlejuice or whatever, it's a real shame that because they were teeing up the return of Keaton as Batman. Was going to, he was going to factor in, he was going to be the Nick Fury of the DC universe, and then James Gunn came in and Warner Bros. Leadership changed and they scrapped it all. So we only got the Flash movie, which I think is a shame because it's pure nostalgia. But yeah, Michael Keaton, well, he is our Batman, and it's just great. He slips into the role so seamlessly.
It's a shame they did the Flash, because if they hadn't, some studio exec would be now saying, well, we've got to get Keaton back.
Well, so some people keep saying make a Batman Beyond movie.
That would work. With
Keaton,
gruff behind a futuristic desk.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Give him a wheelchair.
Give him a wheelchair and make Tom Holland Batman. It'll work. Just do it. Okay. So anything else you think we need to cover? Have we given this short shrift? We're going to have to pepper this episode with all of the quotes from the greatest actor that has ever been, which is Christopher Walken, I think.
Do you think you could go 15 rounds with Muhammad Shreck?
Well, I guess we're going to find out. Of course, I don't have a crime boss like Cobblepot in my corner, so it might...
Crime boss? Shows what you know, mister. To the man born with a silver spoon. Oswald is Gotham's new golden boy. If his parents hadn't 86'd him, you two might have been bunkies at prep school.
Oh, yeah, we'll chuck in some quotes. Yeah, it'd be good to know what are the listeners' thoughts on this film. Where does this sit in your Bat ranking? And, you know, does it feature on your Christmas playlist? I think for me, I probably watch this film more than Batman because I'm just like, oh yeah, it's Christmas time. I'll stick on Batman Returns. And on Her Majesty's Secret Service because that's a Christmas film as well.
And then probably Roger Moore just to equal things out.
Roger on a bank holiday.
Why not?
Preferably A View to a Kill.
So whenever you're listening to this, Retro Ramble wishes you the most festive tidings, the most Christmassy blessings. I think we will probably, I don't know when it will come out, but George and I like to review the year, whether it's the episodes we've covered or the films that have come out.
And what we've been obviously streaming, there's a lot of stuff on TV that we watch that we don't talk about much. But yeah, obviously we've got plenty of other Christmas episodes. If you are new to Retro Ramble, we've covered a lot of the classics, the controversial classics like Die Hard, Lethal Weapon, Gremlins, Scrooged, and Christmas Vacation. I think they're the others we've done. But yes, if you enjoy listening to Retro Ramble, please leave us a review on your podcast platform of choice, or share it with a friend.
Please be sure to share us on all the social medias, the new ones, the old ones.
Yes, we're now on Blue Sky, aren't we, Charlie?
We're also on Dark Sky, Green Sky, and Tesla Sky.
Bat Sky.
Bat Sky, Jedi Sky. And yes, so yeah, like, follow, share, enjoy the content, share the love. And if you need more, check out our Patreon channel at patreon.com/Retro Ramble. That's where we cover the new stuff, the new films, the new stuff.
And the films we missed first time around as well.
Yes, on the revelations, because there were some films that George and I didn't have in our collection or our neighbours. So
they weren't available at the video shop.
Yeah, it's a time people don't understand.
I know.
So for this episode, I've been Charlie McGee.
I've been George McGee.
And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.